Hello, welcome to the self-learning podcast by Dr. Sushma Singh. Let us start discussion on Unit 10, Feminist Approach. After discussing in the Unit 9 the significance of the comparative method in the social science, we now turn in Unit 10 to the equally significant application of the feminist method in the contemporary social research. We can say that the feminist method helps us to look at the social world through the prism of gender. It intersects with other hierarchies and social forms. It is true that the classical sociologists generally excluded considerations of actions of women. Consequently, discipline of sociology had little to say about women. Marx, Durkheim and Weber made stray comments on women and family. This is the reason why the emergence of feminist sociology has brought much excitement and optimism among the new generation of sociologists. After mapping its ideological location, Unit 10 covers the historical context of the feminist method. Next, the author identifies three stages in the growth of the feminist approach since the 1970s and then delineates key features that mark the feminist method. A reference has been made to Maria May, Methodological Guidelines for Feminist Research. Now let us turn to the topic relationship with common sense, interrogating ideological location. It is critical to make explicit the domain assumptions that underlie all theories and methods. The sociology of knowledge presumes that knowledge, much like social institutions and beliefs, is socially constructed and therefore has a necessary symbiotic relationship with social classes, caste, groups, and communities. However, while it is easy to discern the domain assumptions that characterize those systems of knowledge which are marginal and seen as overtly political, the same is not true of established dominant approaches. Hence, it is only the surge of the post-colonial writings that it now may appear that Orientalism or a West centricity marked the classical comparative approaches. Unlike this apparent neutrality that shrouded the comparative method, the feminist method is seen as overtly political. Indeed, a false but persistent dichotomy is created between the academic and political approaches. The same would be true of a Marxist or Dalit or black perspective. In the case of the feminist method, however, the hostility often is intense and responses range from a tendency to trivialize to the tendency to demonize. Such responses can be understood in the context of the far-reaching and fundamental challenges that the feminist method poses to conventional knowledge system. These challenges are contrary to the extant common sense of any existing society. And here I would like to stress that this is contrary not only to traditional and modern patriarchal common sense, but also to modern but dominant theoretical approaches. The question that we may legitimately ask at this point is, how do we help us understand the feminist method? I would try to answer this at this level by asking a question I often ask in class. The discussion runs like this: the rate of divorces is rising because of the increase in number of educated women. The response to the above statement vary. Some students in the class agree in an unqualified manner, believing indeed that the educated women are responsible for breaking homes. Others are uncomfortable with the covert suggestion that therefore women ought not to be educated, and some others make a methodological point, suggesting a reformulation of the variables in the stated hypothesis. In other words, could we not alternatively formulate the statements as follows? The rate of divorces is rising because of the unwillingness of uneducated men to treat their wives as equal. Or you could say that the rate of divorces is rising because more women are willing to break out of bad marriages rather than suffer a life in silence. The purpose of providing these illustrations was to make explicit the connection between everyday common sense and the ease with which it converges with sociological formulations. It is not surprising that Talcott Parsons' model of the family assumes women to perform expressive role and men instrumental ones. The point in contention is not that it does not conform to the empirical reality, but that it takes the extent as given and not problematic. The traditional and modern patriarchal norms are thus embedded in the dominant theoretical formulations. The dominance of the established methods was such that it appeared to be neutralized. For what can be more obvious and natural than the fact that the men and women are different? It made sense to claim that anatomy is destiny, and to argue that the division of labor was and is biological in origin. Here is another common example to show how the feminist approach interrogates and challenges very sensitive and deep-rooted structures, leading to the considerable hostility and at the least discomfort. Often people say that women are making a fuss over a minor thing when they do not wish to change their surname after marriage. However, if the question is posed that if it is so minor, then why the fuss when she wishes not to change? Or it could be asked, if it is so trivial, then why do not men change their surname on marriage? The issue, of course, is not of scoring debating points. The issue is that ordinary customs do often rest on a deep-rooted patriarchal structure. Change of surname implies change of lineage, family, belonging, and identity, and is seen as demonstrative of effectual loyalty. We will clearly note how the comparative approach would not evoke sharp criticism or passionate reaction, unlike the feminist. Now let us wind up the session and take rest. Thank you very much for engaging yourself with the self-learning podcast.